Hi, I'm Simon, and as always, a really warm welcome to Retro Computing Reboot. Today's video, we are taking a dive into a fascinating project, a BeebSID for the BBC Micro. For those of you who don't know, the BeebSID is an add-on for the BBC Micro, which brings to it the classic and iconic sound of the Commodore 64's SID chip. So without further ado, let's get started and build it. So let's start by taking into consideration what you need to build this if you're wanting to follow along with me. First things first, obviously, you're going to need a working BBC Micro. The next thing you're going to need, of course, is a PCB. Now, this one was very kindly sent to me by a viewer called John, and he also sent me all the other bits and pieces for it as well, so thank you for that, John. But if you're not as fortunate as me and you need to order one, then I strongly recommend you head over to PCBWay's website, where you can find fantastic projects like these all ready to go. If you don't fancy making up the boards themselves, you can even have PCBWay populate them for you. And if you're into 3D printing, they also do 3D printing, as well as CNC machining. So thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check them out. Link in the description. You'll then, of course, need a SID chip. And this one is a reproduction. It's not an original SID chip. And this is a Nano SwinSID. And this uses 5 volts, not the 9 or 12 volts that you would have with an original Amiga chip. So bear that one in mind, because the voltage that you'll be setting the board to will be very much dependent on what chip that you're using. We've also got a selection of resistor buses. We've got some sockets. We have a ribbon cable connector for the ribbon cable to connect up to the 1 megahertz bus on the BBC. We've got a little LED. We have a handful of resistors, a couple of electrolytic capacitors, 4 ceramic capacitors, and the logic chips, obviously, and some connectors that I'm going to be using to supply power to the BeebSID, and some jumpers to set the appropriate connections, and some PCB pins there. Now, I'm going to do it in such a way as the sound is output over the internal speaker in the BBC. Now, it does have options, and you can add a phono output. I'm not going to use that. So for this build, I'm going to be using the 5 volt supply from inside the BBC, because my chip doesn't require either a 9 or the 12 volts as you would require from the original Commodore SID chips. So your build may vary slightly depending on what you want to do. If you're wondering what the bus resistors are for, it's simply to act as a termination for the signal on the 1 megahertz bus. Without them, it's not going to work. It does need that the bus resistors fitting, which we'll do in a while. If you don't do that, then if you don't have anything else daisy chained onto the back of it to terminate the connection, it's not going to work. So once again, your setup may vary and be a little bit different to mine, but we'll try get this put together and see if we can get it working. So that's it. Everything's built. All the ICs are on. Your build may look different to mine, and that will depend on what you're using as a SID chip. If you're using an original, then depending on which one it is, the 6581, I think, is one, and the 8580, that'll either take a 9 or 12 volt supply. So you will need to use these and connect up accordingly. And likewise, I'm going to be outputting to the BBC Micro, which is why I've got the jumper installed there. If you're outputting on the connection there, then you will have to obviously install a connector and put the additional jumpers in, etc. So this is it. It's ready to go and be tested. So let's get it connected up to the Beeb and see what it sounds like. So here we are in my Beeb. It's all pretty stock, really. I've already jerry-rigged the earth and plus 5 volts into a connector, which you can see there, ready to connect up to the BeebSID. And I've just got a ribbon cable running around connecting into the 1 megahertz bus. So everything is ready to connect up. So let's do it. So the BBC is off, obviously. If I just connect in the power cable, and then we've got the ribbon cable to connect in, making sure I install it the correct way around. So there we go. Right, just to make everything a bit janky, I'll just balance it on there. Hopefully that won't move. And let's hit the power. I think that's everything. Check. The beep starts and I've got a green LED. So that is a very good start. Now what I need to do now is download some BBC software. I'll put the link in the description for the Stardot forum, which is, if you're a BBC fan, you'll already know Stardot is an excellent resource. I'll put the link in the description for that. And let's give the software a whirl. Right, I've got the software downloaded and installed on my Gotek here, which should be selected. If I shift brake, mount the disc. BeebSID 6, Papa Don't Preach, Madonna. Right, let's, what should we go for? So I've got it installed in the case, tidied everything up a little bit. I've fed the ribbon cable. This one's a bit long. I was going to trim it down, but I haven't got round to it. Just makes life easier, I suppose, later on. It doesn't really get in the way. And I've just mounted it on some little self-adhesive risers there. So the card's just sat there, and if ever I need to get the card out for any reason, it's not going to be too much of a job. Should be relatively straightforward should I need to do so. You might do a tidier job than me, but I'm reasonably happy with that. So let's put the bead back together. Now, I did run into one or two problems with the BeebSID software, in so much as I couldn't get a lot of the discs to work. And I'll show you what I mean. So this is straight off the GoTech, and you can see immediately at the top we've got errors, and the software is just not running. And I thought it might be an issue with the file format, so I even copied the files onto an original floppy disk. Well, original. A 5 1/4 floppy disk, and I'll show you the results of that if I can remember what to type in. So let's boot. Yeah, I'm getting similar. So I don't know what that problem is. If you guys have experienced it and you know what it is, then do let me know in the comments, because I would love to get all these other discs working as well. So that is the BeebSID, a quirky but fun little project. I'll play you out with some more music from the SID. But in the meantime, thank you as always for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy my content. And hopefully I will see you in another video soon. Bye for now.